What would you do if you came home to a stranger silencing you in your own house? Cole Harrington, a millionaire, comes home late and hears his black maid tell him to shut up. The reason was ear-shocking. Cole Harrington didn't expect to come home early that night. The gala had ended sooner than expected. A dull affair stuffed with wine, politics, and people who measured success in gold cufflinks and tax shelters. He had smiled, nodded, signed a six-figure check for a children's hospital, and left without a word. It was nearing midnight when he stepped into his penthouse. He loosened his tie with one hand, the other pulling the door shut behind him as quietly as possible. He wanted silence, a drink, maybe just 5 minutes of stillness before collapsing into a bed he hadn't touched in 4 days. Instead, he barely made it past the hallway before someone grabbed him from behind. A hand clamped over his mouth. Cole froze. Instinct screamed to fight, but before he could react, a voice whispered urgently in his ear, "Don't say a word." Who was this mysterious woman, and why was she so desperate to keep him quiet? The voice was female, trembling, familiar. His pulse slowed just enough to register. Amara, the maid, the new one. Hired 2 weeks ago after the last housekeeper quit without warning. He'd barely spoken to her. Barely noticed her, if he was honest. But now, her hand was over his mouth, her other arm gripping his chest, and her breath was shaking behind him. Slowly, she removed her hand. "What the hell?" he whispered, turning sharply. "Please," she said. "Don't raise your voice." Cole looked at her closely now. She was still wearing the black uniform, white apron crisply tied, the white maid cap tucked into her coiled hair. But her face was different. Not composed, not quiet like before. Her eyes were red, wet, like she'd been holding something in for hours. He stepped back, confusion written all over him. "You better have a reason for." I do," she said, cutting him off. "But it's not one I should have had to carry alone." Cole stared at her. "What does that mean?" She looked toward the hallway. "Your son sleepwalks." That caught him off guard. "What?" "He's been doing it every night since your last trip. Always around this time. I've been watching him, walking with him, guiding him back to bed." His face softened. "I didn't know." "No one told you," she said. "Because no one else saw it. I stay late after my shift to make sure he's safe." "You're not paid for that," he said flatly. "I know," she replied. He opened his mouth, then closed it. The air in the hallway felt heavier now, like it carried the weight of all the things he hadn't asked about. "He talks in his sleep," she said. "Sometimes he says your name, sometimes he cries." Cole's jaw clenched. "Why didn't you tell me before?" "Because I didn't know if it mattered to you." That one landed. "I care about my son," he said quietly. "I believe that," she replied. "But children don't feel belief, they feel presence." He didn't respond. She continued, her voice steadier now. "Tonight, he walked past the stairwell. His eyes were wide open, but he wasn't awake. I stopped him before he reached the edge." Cole's heart sank. "I caught him just in time," she said. "But I couldn't carry him, so I stayed by him. And when I heard the elevator, I panicked. I thought if you came in loud, you'd startle him. He's fragile when he's like that. That's why I told you to be quiet. That's why I covered your mouth." He sat down on the edge of the hallway bench, his suit stiff against the cool leather. Amara stepped closer. "I know I crossed a line." I shouldn't have touched you like that. You were trying to protect my son, he said, looking up at her. I should have thanked you. She lowered her gaze. I didn't do it for thanks. Cole leaned forward, elbows on his knees. You said something earlier about carrying this alone. She hesitated. I'm used to it. He looked at her again. Really looked. She was young, maybe in her mid-20s, too young to have eyes that tired, hands that steady from holding in fear. I know I'm just the maid, as she said softly. But that little boy, he looks at me like I'm something more, and I couldn't ignore that. You're not just the maid, he said. She nodded but didn't smile. Why didn't you leave it to the nanny? He asked. Amara looked away. The nanny comes in late, leaves early, says she's not a babysitter. Says he'll grow out of it. Cole closed his eyes for a second. Everything he'd missed was clearer now. All the long hours, the business trips, the delegating of love like it was part of an expense report, someone else's task. I thought I was doing the right thing, he said, working hard, building something for him. Amara spoke softly. A child doesn't need a future more than he needs his present. Cole looked at her like he'd been told a secret he wasn't ready for. And just then, from around the corner, soft footsteps. They both turned. Nolan stood there, his son, barefoot, eyes heavy with sleep. Daddy. Cole rose to his feet. I'm here, buddy. Amara whispered, walk slowly. No sudden movements. Cole stepped forward, knelt, and opened his arms. Nolan stumbled into him. I was looking for you. I'm here now, Cole said, voice cracking. And he meant it for the first time in a long time. Cole held Nolan close, his arms tightening as the boy breathed quietly against his shoulder. He hadn't realized how small Nolan still was, how his frame fit so easily into his arms. It had been weeks since they'd sat like this, maybe longer. Too many phone calls, too many silent dinners with a screen between them. Now his son clung to him like a boy, afraid to wake up alone again. Amara stood back, watching quietly. She didn't try to insert herself. She never had. Cole finally looked up, his voice raw. How many times has he done this? Since I started, 7 times. Always after midnight. Always pacing like he's looking for someone, as she answered softly. It's like his body remembers what his heart doesn't understand. Cole lowered his face into Nolan's hair. He thinks I left him. I think he just missed you, Amara said. That's not the same. She walked past them and gently straightened one of the photos on the wall. An old one of Cole and Nolan at the beach. You know, she said without looking at him, when I was little, my mom used to work nights, long shifts, sometimes 2 jobs. I'd wait up for her even though she told me not to. I'd fall asleep by the door just to feel close when she came in. Cole listened, still kneeling. I didn't need gifts, as she said. I just needed her voice, her presence. A moment of her eyes meeting mine. That was enough to keep me going another day. She turned back to him. Nolan's still waiting at that door, Mr. Harrington, even if it's not physical. He nodded slowly, cradling Nolan tighter. I thought giving him everything would make up for not being around. Amara took a seat across from him on the hallway bench. Love isn't a delivery. It's not something you drop off on holidays and birthdays. It's being there in the middle of the night when they forget their own name, but remember your warmth. She wasn't preaching. She was simply stating what she knew. And Cole, for once, didn't feel defensive. He felt humbled. Nolan stirred. His voice was faint. Is it morning? Not yet, buddy, Cole whispered. Still nighttime. You're okay. Amara was here. Nolan mumbled without opening his eyes. She was holding my hand. Cole looked across at her again. You have done more for him in 2 weeks than I have in 2 months. She shook her head. You don't need to say that. I do, he insisted. Because it's true. Amara stood slowly. I'll make some tea. You both need something warm. As she walked toward the kitchen, Cole carried Nolan back to his room, gently laying him down beneath the soft blue covers. The boy sighed in his sleep, turning toward the window. Cole sat beside him, brushing his fingers through his son's hair. When he returned to the kitchen, Amara had already laid out 2 mugs. She was rinsing something at the sink. The lights were low, the whole penthouse quiet, except for the hum of the refrigerator. He stood beside her. I'd like to keep you on, he said. She didn't look up. That's your choice. Not just as a maid. That made her pause. He continued, I want someone in this house who sees him the way you do, who cares about him as a person, not just a routine. She turned to face him. You don't need to hire love. You just need to be present. I want to learn, he said simply. That silenced her. She saw the truth in his face. Not desperation, not guilt, just sincerity. A father trying to begin again. After a long moment, she nodded. Then start by sitting with him every morning. Even if it's just 10 minutes, let that be the first thing he sees before school. He smiled faintly. And pancakes. She finally allowed a soft grin. Banana with a little cinnamon. It's the only way he eats them. They sat together at the table, sipping quietly. The city beyond the window still sparkled with its endless noise. But inside this home, things felt still for the first time in years. Amara stood to leave. She reached for her coat. Same time tomorrow, he nodded. Earlier if you can. She smiled again. And just before walking out the door, she said, he doesn't need a hero. He just needs his dad. And with that, she stepped into the quiet hallway. Cole locked the door gently behind her, turned, and looked toward his son's room. For once, he didn't feel like a stranger in his own house. He felt like a father returning home. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more emotional, dramatic, and unexpected tales from Whisper Fable. And let us know in the comments where in the world you're watching from. We love hearing from all of you. Until next time, stay kind, stay curious, and keep watching Whisper Fable.